a birthday where we find Lindy Lewis and her parents. Lindy is struggling with intermittent explosive disorder, which leads her to react with extreme anger to minor provocations. Her body produces an unusually high level of cortisol, granting her enhanced strength and speed. Due to her violent outbursts, her parents eventually decide to institutionalize her. Attempts to manage her behavior in the army also fail. Ultimately, Lindy undergoes an experimental treatment that effectively controls her rage. She wears a vest lined with electrodes that administers self-delivered shock therapy, enabling her to lead a more normal life. Later on, Lindy is encouraged by her therapist and the designer of her vest, Dr. Ivan Munchin, to go on a date. He believes this will help determine if she can maintain a healthy, normal relationship. Eventually, Lindy agrees to go out with an accountant named Justin. During the date, she reacts violently when their waitress gives Justin a hard time about his nut allergies. She takes the knife in her hand and, filled with anger, Justin noticed that, and joking that he wouldn't prevent her if she would harm the waitress. As the waitress goes to the bathroom, Lindy excuses from Justin that she needs to go checking her makeup. She follows the waitress to the bathroom, and there she punished her badly. Later, she returns to Dr. Munchin to have her electroshock device adjusted. Munchin informs her that the remote is functioning properly. Instead, she has developed a tolerance to the shocks and increases the dosage. He encourages Lindy to give Justin another chance and pursue a genuine relationship. Lindy reaches out to Justin for a second date. They share stories about their pasts, Lindy as a bouncer, and Justin discussing his job. He reveals that he only has one client, a man named Barry. They return to Lindy's apartment. There, Justin notices her voltage therapy vest and the electrodes on her body. He reassures her that it's not a big deal and starts to remove the vest. The next morning, Justin surprises Lindy with breakfast in bed and a gift. She unwraps a camera, which he bought after she mentioned her interest in photography. Justin asks her to explain her voltage therapy, and after Lindy shares her story, he seems to accept her condition. Before leaving for work, he invites her for a dinner, a salmon meal. He will make it for her. Lindy, full of joy, visits Dr. Munchin to tell him that his theory worked and that she has strong feelings for Justin. Munchin insists they should have a session to explore these emotions, but Lindy decides to go out and take pictures with her new camera instead. Later, after not hearing from Justin all day, she calls his phone, only to have Detective Vickers answer. Concerned, she goes to the police station, where Detective Vickers and Detective Nevins inform her that Justin has been murdered. Lindy reflects on her time with Justin and begins to spiral, repeatedly shocking herself with the vest. She visits Dr. Munchin, insisting that the vest isn't working, prompting him to give her a sedative. When she comes to, she declares that she needs to find out who murdered Justin. Munchin warns her to let it go before it changes her irreversibly. Determined, Lindy calls the detectives, claiming she has more information about Justin's murder to lure them out of the precinct, allowing her access to the evidence room. She then goes to Justin's house, where she finds his phone. Just then, Detective Vickers calls, informing her that they've located her and that Detective Nevins is on her way to arrest her. In a brief confrontation, Nevins attempts to shoot Lindy, but she manages to distract her and escape. Lindy takes Justin's car, leading to a short car chase during which Vickers is injured. After evading capture, she heads to an electronics store to seek help with hacking Justin's phone. There, she meets Andy, a teenager hacker working at the shop. Andy successfully tracks down Justin's client, Barry Kaspersky, a notorious gangster confirmed to be the last person in contact with him. After discovering that Barry is at an abandoned building overseeing an underground fight, Lindy heads to the event and demands that Barry reveal who killed Justin. He agrees, but only if she fights his top 3 fighters simultaneously. After emerging victorious, Barry attempts to have her killed. However, Lindy manages to incapacitate both Barry and his gunman, coercing Barry into revealing the identity of Justin's killer by threatening him with jumper cables. He confesses that a billionaire recluse named Gareth Physco, who is also Barry's boss, ordered Justin's murder. Despite his confession, Lindy electrocutes him with the jumper cables anyway. Later, Lindy visits Detective Vickers, who is now in the hospital following their earlier car chase. She inquires about Physco, and Vickers, believing she genuinely cared for Justin, provides her with Physco's location. Just then, Detective Nevins interrupts and pursues Lindy to the maternity ward, where in a desperate move, Lindy starts throwing infants at Nevins to buy herself time to escape. Lindy arrives at Gareth Feisel's building, but is quickly knocked unconscious by his head of security, Delacroix. When she wakes up, she finds herself zip-tied to a chair in a stark white room, and Delacroix has removed her electroshock vest. After threatening her life, Delacroix puts her in a car to return to her apartment, keeping the vest for himself. Meanwhile, Physco instructs Delacroix to dispose of Lindy after learning that she was asking about Justin, leading him to suspect that Physco was involved in the murder. In the car, Lindy demands the driver let her out, but when he refuses, she grabs him and starts choking him, causing the vehicle to crash. Once free, Lindy goes to Dr. Munchin to get a new vest and then heads back to her apartment. She notices that the number 9 sign on her door has been moved, indicating someone has been there. Sneaking in through her window, she discovers that Feisel's men have rigged an explosive device at the entrance. She skillfully disarms it and pockets the device for later use. She puts a foil in the microwave and opens the gas, then leaves the apartment. As she leaves, she spots Detective Vickers outside her apartment and gets into his car. She warns him that he can't arrest her due to her condition, and that it would be safer for him not to. Vickers assures her he'll go easy on her because she's different, emphasizing that it has nothing to do with what Nevins claims about her being a woman. He told her too that Fizzle gangster men will follow her. Just then, her apartment explodes and she replies, "No one will follow her now." Then they drive away. Lindy tracks down Physco but is captured by Delacroix when she tries to enter his building. Physco expresses regret for killing Justin, saying he's glad to see her one last time. Just then, Delacroix strikes her in the head, and she finds herself back in the drainage room. Physco asks if she knows what exsanguinate means, and as he explains it, he prepares to drain her blood. In a moment of desperation, Lindy manages to break free and fights back against him. She asks how to reach Physco before subduing Delacroix and fending off several guards. Using Delacroix's finger to access Physco's lair, she discovers that Justin isn't dead. Instead, he used her as a decoy to get close to Physco because he works for the CIA and couldn't officially target him. Justin reveals that Dr. Munchin was involved as well, with the CIA funding his experiments, making Lindy just another test subject. Determined to confront Justin, Lindy finds him, but he detonates her voltage electrodes using a remote control, increasing the voltage. The vest becomes ineffective as her anger intensifies. In a final act of defiance, she throws him a bag containing the bomb, which detonates and obliterates Feisel's lair as she escapes in the elevator. Later, Lindy waits in Dr. Munchin's office, ready to confront him for his betrayal. Just as she decides against killing him and opts to handcuff him instead, Detectives Vickers and Nevins enter to arrest Dr. Munchin. Later, as Lindy returns to her apartment, she finds a woman who was one of the doctors from Lindy's past. She tells Lindy that embracing her rage will grant her true power. The doctor then activates the voltage detonator. And here the movie ends. Hope you enjoyed it and hit a subscribe.